In this video series, we're tackling the question of identity. And in the previous videos, I talked about 3 options. 1, you can let others decide your controlling self-understanding. 2, you can decide for yourself. Or 3, you can let God decide. In the end, we decided the best identity comes from letting God decide. That means God loved us while we were still shameful sinners, so that we could be both fully known and fully accepted at the same time. Now, it's not enough to know one's best identity. You got to put it into practice. And the story of Jonah is about a prophet who runs from his calling, from his identity. As Jonah runs from God by getting on a boat, God sends a storm to run him down. And the ship's captain comes to Jonah and asks him in Jonah 1:8 a bunch of questions, but they all boil down to this: what is your controlling self-understanding? See, Jonah's identity is so important that it impacts not only Jonah's life, but the lives of every person on the ship. Do you realize that your identity impacts not only yourself, but others? And that's why it's important not to only make the right decision about the identity, but to put it into practice. Jonah responds to the captain's question by saying, "I am a Hebrew and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven who made the sea and the dry land." Now, the first part of Jonah's statement is true, but is the second part? Does he actually fear God? Because he's running away from God's calling to preach to the Ninevites, and as a consequence of not putting his identity into practice, Jonah is endangering his life, the people on the ship's lives, and all the Ninevites' lives whose destiny hangs in the balance with Jonah's decision. Jonah is an absurd person, and he's in absurd circumstances, and we think his example is far away from ours, but his decision isn't far away from what many of us Christians do. We may let God decide our identity, but we wrestle with putting it into practice. What you need is an identity habit. A habit is an effortless, repeated action. When someone says it's like riding a bike, what they mean is you've done it so many times, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's intuitive and easy. In order to establish an identity habit, as I've said throughout this series, you need a collaborator. Find someone whom you can practice your best identity with. And God has not only given you the best identity, He's also provided people around you who have this same identity so you can practice it together. So I encourage you to find someone or a group of people whom you can read the Bible with, because the Bible is an identity manual. And you don't have to sit and read it. You can talk about it over a meal, on a walk, or even while working out. What's important is, just like eating healthy or working out, is that you keep doing it, that it's sustainable. What I hope you'll discover is that practicing your best identity with others is what it means to live faith first.